Charles. What's up, man?
Oh, brother, it's Friday.
It's another Friday we've been blessed to see. But it's something different about this Friday. Don't you think?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's something a little bit different. See, we have added an extra tool to our toolkit, into our arsenal to help keep us aligned and keep us straight and free us up to just focus on the content. So, we love our interns at Irvin Law, and we absolutely love them. And we have a new intern on board. So she like to hide behind the scenes, but I think we're going to have to bring her behind the curtain. So why don't you come out behind the curtain, Ms. Kennedy, and introduce yourself to the audience? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, tell us who you are, where you hail from, where you go to school. Give us some info on who Kennedy is.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Kennedy Harrison. I'm a sophomore political science major, currently working towards a minor in criminal justice, hailing all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I currently live in North Dallas, Texas, and I attend the I Love Jackson State University.
Welcome. Very happy to have you on board. Tell us, what do you plan on doing once you graduate? Give us some idea of what's going on in that brain of yours.
Well, I do plan on hopefully one day becoming a district attorney for Dallas County and Dallas, Texas. But if not, I still want to work on either public policy or still work towards corporate law for big corporations. I'm still kind of deciding right now. But yeah.
Both worthy and aspirational goals. If your goals are small, you can go to sleep like a baby. But if they're big, they should keep you up at night.
Yeah, I mean that's what Jim Collins says in his book, Big, Bold, and Audacious, right?
That's right.
Well, Kennedy, now look, Kennedy, I'm gonna let you hide behind the scenes for a few minutes, but we're gonna bring you back on a little bit later because we got some conversations we have to have, and I'd love to have the perspective of the millennial and the new generation. So I'll give you a minute to hide behind the scenes, but don't go to sleep on us.
Okay, all right. Bye, guys.
All right. So Charles, man, a lot to get into. A lot has been happening. Last week we're gonna pick up right where we left off last week. Last week we were really dissecting what was going on in this Chauvin trial. And I was pretty emotional last week. I left all my heart right out there for the family to see. You had to talk me down a little bit, give me to see another perspective. I'm still just as frustrated, but you rechanneled that and talked about things we can do, the action we can take to make it better, which is what I think was good, because if we just talk about it, nothing's going to ever change. So what can we do? So let's just pick back up right there, your recap of what has happened since the last time we talked and addressed the show.
Well, the prosecution has rested, meaning that they have put on their full case. And now the defense is pushing ahead with their case. And they've already had a use of force expert come on and talk about the force being appropriate that was applied. They've already had a medical expert come on. They tried to turn the expert on the medical side. I was left scratching my head because they tried to turn him into a Swiss Army knife. One of the things that you asked me about early on in the trial was why so many medical experts from the prosecution. Well, evidently it worked. We'll see. Proof will be in the verdict. But as far as making the issues plain as to what was a significant cause or not a significant cause, they use those experts in their fields of knowledge to provide professional opinions that either ruled in certain things or ruled out certain things. And there was a consensus that began to develop, and that was that death was preventable had the use of force not gone on for so long. There's an affirmative duty to, and I know these are legal terms, so I'll go back after I lay this out and kind of break it down a little bit, but there's an affirmative duty of care from the law enforcement officer based off of his professional training to render aid to a detainee. What that means simply is once they saw Mr. Floyd was in distress, and we know from the body cam footage that they knew he was in distress, and he said he couldn't breathe over 27 times. At some point, they should have pulled up prior to him losing consciousness and rolled him to his side or sat him up or picked him up and sat him down. Common sense will tell you that if you're laying on your chest with your arms behind your back and a knee on your neck, there's a chance that oxygen is going to run out.
A pretty good chance, I would say.
What's so shocking about this is the expert for the defense was just kind of doing the old-fashioned throwing spaghetti at the wall. Well, could it have been carbon monoxide poisoning from the tailpipe of the car that was above Mr. Floyd? Things of that nature, which I got to tell you, Leslie, when you're talking about trial tactics, every witness is weighed by the jury for their truthfulness and credibility and believable, whether or not they're believable. It makes it hard for you to be believable when you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it sticks. Well, and on cross-examination, I'll say this, and then I'll stop right there. But on cross-examination, the prosecution was able to exact a price for that because they went to the standards of the medical profession. Should aid have been rendered? His answer was, I would agree with that. Could loss of life have been prevented if aid was rendered? He agreed with that. That causes a huge problem because that in essence means that there was some duty that was not met by former Officer Chauvin to Mr. Floyd.
You know, it makes me think. So you said something there I want to kind of go back to. You said when you talk about a jury, you have to be the two biggest things I see to really destroy a witness in front of a jury is to damage their credibility. Because if you damage their credibility, they're automatically not believable. They're not as believable, right? So that's big. So credibility, you mentioned that. And then the other one is, in my mind, the ability to make a situation, the ability to emotionally place the juror in that moment that you're trying to create. It makes it real. So now it's not hypothetical. It's, I felt that. So I think they did that from what I saw. In a lot of different ways.
The prosecution definitely did that. The witnesses that they chose, particularly Dr. Tobin, I believe is his name, he took the time to take complex issues and break them down to everyday man language. And so when you do that, a juror is more apt to listen to you, one, but they also can put themselves in the shoes of individuals on the scene to understand what was happening medically. Even though it's complex, everybody understands depletion of oxygen. Absolutely. And people can understand how a cardiac arrest may come from the stress of that situation if you're losing oxygen at a rapid rate. And so he did a good job with it. On the flip side, I feel like where the relatable, believable, truthful issues are going to come back and bite the defense is that one medical witness could not compare to 2, 3 4 different specialties: pulmonary, medical examiners, and the like. I mean, it's hard for you to fit all of that into one person's examination, and you leave big holes for the prosecution to come back and cross-examine and ask further questions for clarification. And you end up with a situation where he has to say, based on his oath as a medical officer, there is a duty of care that should have been honored.
Fair enough. So just bringing everybody up to speed. So we were kind of recapping the Chauvin trial, which is of course, the officer that's on trial for killing George Floyd. And so I want to turn your heads a little bit, Charles, because a few miles away, oh, what a difference a week makes. A few miles away. Well, first, let me back up. So the title of the show today for everybody is Black, Blue, and Human. Black, Blue, and Human. And we're going to dive into it a little bit later. I want you to keep that in your mind, because when we bring our intern back, she's going to give us a little context of where that comes from her perspective. So I don't want to steal her thunder, but she'll set that up for us. But a few miles away from where that trial is even going on, we have the killing of Dante Wright.
Yes.
And I'm going to do as I always do, take the road less traveled here. And let me put this disclaimer. I know the obvious. Dante Wright should still be alive. I still don't understand why Dante Wright was asked to get out of his car. He should still be alive. That's the bottom line there. But I want to go to another issue that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, because I'm just curious about it. So, and here's my question. I watched the video just like many of you. And my question is, why did Mr. Wright decide to make the decision to try to flee? Yes, it should have never been going on. Yes, they're wrong in all those ways. I'm all in favor of that. I'm just asking myself, because as a Black man now, this is happening far too often, far too much. So I just wanted some perspective or just some different thought on it, because I hadn't seen that in the blogs. I hadn't heard those comments, and I don't know if I'm missing something, but I'm seeing it more and more prevalent. Because to me, on the side of the road, somebody told me a long time ago, I think it was you're not going to solve the problem on the side of the road. Never going to win it. You've got to get to a place where you can have a chance at justice, and it's never going to be on the side of the road. Just want to stop there for a second. What's your thoughts on that? Because I'm seeing it repeated. It's not just him, but we always tend to, there's some kind of action or struggle there. And then
in the climate that we're in, Leslie, I want you to think about this. True enough, I've always advocated for complying and living to see another day. But there has been an unwritten, unspoken, but visually seen through all of the body cam footage, escalation. And I want you to think about it from this standpoint. The very same action that happened to him a few minutes after the initial contact could have very well happened at the initial stop. Because it would seem to me that there was no good reason to get him out of the vehicle. There was no good reason to pull a weapon on him.
I agree.
And so I think people are making calculations based off of survival, fight or flight. And so I think that's where you're pointing, but it could have been the same outcome.
Yeah, and that's why I posed the question, because I think the only answer I could come up with, because what we have seen happen over and over, and this is where that part of being Black, the Black part of the title been, we're just trying to live. We haven't seen any conclusive evidence that says if I comply, I make it.
Right.
And so we can look right at George Floyd and see that. So it was a question. I just wanted to make sure I got that out, so people and my friends that are not my color, that might not understand, can understand that perspective. It is a different reality when you're black and you're stopped in this world. And so we're going to talk about that. I want to bring, and we're going to get some of the comments, go to the audience in a minute, get some of our comments, but I want to bring our intern back because I want her to give us some context on this title for today and what she was thinking. So, Kennedy, if you could pop back in and join us and give us some insight on black, blue, and human.
So basically, the reason why I felt like that would be a good title for today's show was just because I feel like recently, with a lot of current events going on, I just feel like people in society, they see us as black and blue, but they don't see us as human. And I think that's the real issue. Even like, I hate to go off topic, but today, I don't know if a lot of people know, but it was also a killing of another minority. His name was Adam Toledo in Chicago. And so that's why Lori Lightfoot, she kind of had to do a press conference. She was saying, please do not try to riot. But it was because of another killing from the police officers. And it's kind of similar to, I would say, Dante Wright's case, just because I hate to say it, in the video and the body cam footage, it did show that Adam had a gun in his hand. And so he was fleeing, but that doesn't give you the right to kill. So I just feel like within the current events and the current climate going on in America, it's always seen as black, blue, but where is the humanity in this? Everything, we're not humans. I feel like it's kind of discouraging for our culture and our race, especially.
Good, great insight, Charles.
Factually, he did have a weapon,
Yeah.
but at the time of the shooting, he had both hands up,
Exactly.
no weapon. So again, the sequence of events is critical, because if compliance is what you're seeking, then do it the same way you do for everybody. Because we know in the white community, there are traffic stops, there's illegal driving, traffic citations, there's all types of stuff that are the same as in the black community. It's the outcome. If you watch some of the body cam footage from white officers stopping white suspects, they get a wide berth. I watched the body cam video on Wednesday that made me sick to my stomach, because the young man was talking back to the officers saying, hey, I have a right to have this gun and I will shoot you.
Exactly.
And he walked away from it. They told him, let's work it out.
Wait a minute, Charles, go back. I missed something there. Say that again.
They stopped the white young man.
That's what I thought you said. Okay.
They knew he had a weapon because he told them he had a weapon. And he told them he had a constitutional right to carry. They asked him for his permit. And they said, where's your concealed carry permit? And his answer to them was, it's not concealed. It's right here. And I will shoot you with it if you come closer.
Yeah.
It's the privilege. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the privilege.
You know, as we talk about this topic, and Bird, we got quite a few audience, and we're coming to you. So hang on, we're coming to get you guys involved in this, because some of our audiences already brought up the Virginia incident, which is what I'm going to parallel to right now. So we've seen an incident where the person tried to flee, and I asked the question, why did we flee? Well, if we parallel that in context with what happened in Virginia in December, I believe it was, of 2020, and that video is out there, an Army lieutenant just got a new car, was being stopped by two police officers, and they tried to say that he was trying to evade police. He did not. He slowed down and drove to a well-lit area before he pulled over. So for the officer's safety and for his safety. When I watched that video, that was troubling to me because I don't know anything else he could have done to de-escalate. And the words of the officer, he mentioned to the officer, as a veteran, and the officer's response, I'm a veteran too, so what? I gotta tell you, Charles, as I look, from the eyes of a Black person, looking at the actions of some blue, it's not all blue, the action of some blue, it brings into question what Kennedy is talking about. Where's the humanity? Dr. King said, said this is a human issue of humanity. We're talking about human rights. And the reality is Blacks haven't had human rights in this country. We're still fighting for human rights. We haven't had the privilege of having them. And we see it over and over and over again. And so I think what bothers people, what bothers me, is I've heard that analogy. Well, they really, and I think Kenny and I was having a conversation earlier, they were really on Colin Kaepernick about he was disrespecting the military. He was not in favor of our armed forces, when yet I see how these officers in blue treated the very same armed forces that you say we don't respect. An officer at that. I'm just at a loss for words of how do you even. I've played that video over and over, and I honestly can't find out one thing he could have done differently to de-escalate it.
And it's sickening.
Here's what I will say. First, as to Colin Kaepernick, you can't get caught up in these political thought experiments. Colin Kaepernick was doing exactly what the military fights for. He was expressing his right to free speech.
Right.
And he can express that by kneeling. He can express that by not saluting the flag. So don't get caught up in that false equivalent that people want you to get caught up in, because he was doing exactly what the military has gone to fight battles for. That's what democracy is all about. There's supposed to be civil discourse. There's supposed to be room for disagreement, but you can't make it an absolute theory. And then we see the different treatment. That's hypocritical.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really sad because the initial stop, it was over a backlog in his license. It was his brand new SUV, and they stopped him. It was a traffic stop about his license. But in the recent press conference, when they interviewed the police chief, a lot of interviewers were saying, "Are you aware that it's a backlog from the DMV because of COVID?" And the police chief was aware, and he was just like, "Why are your officers still pulling people over for something like this?" He wasn't speeding, he wasn't swerving. He didn't have a license plate off a brand new SUV. And the only reason why the officer recently got fired, not both of them, it was just one of them. He actually got fired was because of the video going viral. It originally happened in December, and it's now April. So it's just, the video never went viral. This type of behavior will continuously go on and, continuously disrespect even African Americans in the military today. So it's just kind of like I said before, where's the humanity? He complied everything, and you still continue to pepper spray him and put him on the floor, and only one of the officers was held accountable, only because he was fired and when it was viral, only because of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was sharing with you last week, Leslie, is the advent of video. It doesn't change everything overnight, but we are able to actually see with our own eyes and apply common sense to an age-old problem of different treatment because of race. Driving while
you're gonna have to help us here, because I'm gonna bring Mr. Bird's comment here, because I feel exactly the same way he does, and you're gonna have to help us with this. So let me bring Bird's comment up in here. And he said, "Man, all of this bothers me so bad. I don't know what else we can do." Talk to us.
Well, I honestly feel the same way as you do. However, I'm not willing to lay down and just take it. What I'm saying is we have to use every tool in the toolbox. There is a thought out there that says what Fannie Lou Hamer said. I'm sick and tired
I'm
of being
being sick
sick
and
and
tired.
tired. But the opposite reaction to that thought is just like I talked to my class about. When we are using language, we have to be very literal in how we apply that language to the problem, because politics is always at play. I tell you that all the time. Politics is in everything. So when we get off on tangents like defund the police or things like that, it loses its value, because now the focus is away from the issue of policing Black people. It's away from that. It is now on some false narrative of, oh, they want to take the money away from police departments and have no police. They want utter chaos. No, that's not what we're saying. We just want the laws to be applied in a way that we can be stopped in a traffic stop and still make it home.
So Charles, as we think about this, and Bird, I'm telling you, Bird, you're in my brain today. Here's some of the things we can do right now from a policy standpoint, systematically across all 50 states in this nation that still hasn't been done. And it can be done right away. And it's a simple thing. This gentleman got fired in Virginia and he'll end up on another police force. I am almost certain he'll end up on another police force.
Well, that is why we have to advocate for accountability standards that says if you get fired for excessive force, or you get disciplined for excessive force, you are no longer eligible to be in the hiring pool for another police force.
I agree. I mean, just like they do with to me, the things that they put in place for sex offenders with the national registry, that everybody has to be searched through there, so it's one common search. Those are things that need to be put in place in law enforcement. I mean,
Yes.
they don't have to reinvent the model. There are measures out there. There are systems out there that have already provided a footprint and the architectural guidance to develop something that prevents this. It's not rocket science.
No, but here's where the science comes in at. We like to vote for presidents. We don't like to vote for district attorneys or for city council or board of supervisors or sheriffs. And that's where we lose our momentum. I tell you this all the time. Those local issues, those local positions are the ones who can affect that change the fastest.
Exactly. Local elections matter the most, and I don't think a lot of people really push them as much as they push the national election.
That's
And
right.
that's to be like, even for example, what happened with Jackson with the water issue. That all of that has a play in voting for who your mayor is, and your sheriff and just other stuff, police chief, fire chief, all that. It all has a play. So I don't think people really push local elections as much as they should, but it definitely is way more imperative than I feel like. Well, I don't want to put it on which one is more important, but if you want to see change quick and fast, then you definitely need to pay attention to your local elections more.
That's right.
So Kennedy, I have a question to you. So just looking at your generation, what do you say? Because obviously I can say, looking just at the numbers, this is not me speaking for our generation. This is looking at the numbers of our generation and the generation before us. We've done a piss poor job of voting locally. So what can you guys do to change the narrative to make sure you guys understand the gravity of all politics, the statement that all politics are local?
Well, I think what's going to be different for us in our generation and instead of y'all's was because social media, it plays a huge part, and it plays a huge in our generation, I feel like that's how we're going to be able to push the narrative and the importance of voting. A lot of people, I hate to say it, even myself sometimes, in our generation, when we wake up, we go straight to our phone. We either look at Facebook, we really will look at Twitter, but that's where we get a lot of the information about what's going on, like the political climate and everything. That's how I found out about the Lieutenant Nazaro with the two police officers in the Army vet. That's how I found out about it. So I think that's going to be our best bet in pushing it and pushing the importance of voting. It's still some tweaks and everything, because at the same time, not every source that you find on social media is valuable and reliable, but that's going to be our way. I do feel like we're progressing, and I do believe that on this past election, it showed that our generation did come out and vote. A lot of times, it was my first time voting in this past election. Now we just need to push more on voting for your local elections. So that's the only thing that we got to work on.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you can do, I'm going to challenge your generation to do, is, somebody needs. Every generation has those people that are in your circle. Every circle has one in their friend circle. That's the go-to person that always makes sure the information is out there, right? We look, if right now, and I'm gonna pick on you, Kennedy, because you're in college, but when I was in college, I knew who to call to find out where the party was. I knew who to call to find out when the study group was meeting.
Exactly.
I knew who to call if I needed to get to the store, because I didn't have no car. I knew who had a ride. So we knew who to call for certain things, but we now have to have somebody that steps in the gap and becomes the person you go to get the information that lets you know proactively, hey, let's make sure we register by this deadline. We are electing a new police chief today. We didn't like what he said last week. Here's the information. Here's been his voting policy. Here's been the voting policy of this particular congressman, this particular councilman. This is how he voted on key issues that affect us. And we are going to have those go-to people to get that information out, because people naturally go to the source, and we all know who the source is. So I think having a source for that kind of information with the advent of social media is so critical for your generation, because you really can be political influencers in that way of just really getting that information out. Because I'll be honest with you, even me, I'm getting information off social media long before I get the information off the news. I get the information off social media first, and I go to the news to hear what's changed.
Exactly, yes. And I think I kind of just thought about this, but one thing, of course, not everybody goes to college, but for the people who do, I do think that colleges just try to push to at least have some type of political science or criminal justice class, something, take it as an elective, so you can learn and figure out the importance in the government, because a lot of people, they don't really know the government. They don't know, some people don't know who to vote for, who not to vote for. So I just feel like that can be another game changer. I just have to see, but
I got a question for you, Kennedy. You come up recent, because I'm going to see if Charles' point stands true. Did you have a civics class in high school?
I did not. I only had I had a class. It was AP US government. That's something that you can choose to take. Is regular US history and then AP US history. So I chose that class, but I didn't really have like a civics class.
Charles, it goes back to your point. Proves your point again. The foundation of government is no longer taught in school.
And really, if we're being completely honest, the way that, I don't want to say every school teaches that way, but the way that my school district, like I went to Independence High School in Frisco, Texas. And the only reason why I took AP US history half a semester. So I took AP Econ the first semester of my senior year, and then AP US history the second semester of my senior year. And if we're being completely honest, I just like that's the worst time to even take it, but that's the only time the class is offered, because every student has senioritis. They're not really going to, you know what I'm saying? They're not going to take it as serious as they should. The material is all compacted into one semester and is not taught properly, because some of the teachers really don't care about their job, or they're just coaches. And so, that's how my AP US history teacher was. I mean, a great person, wasn't the best teacher, but I didn't learn the best either. So, yeah.
Good point. I'll say you, man, we got a lot of work to do.
I want you to understand something, Kennedy, and that is, while you should have had better, you have progressed to 1400 Lynch Street, and now it becomes your responsibility to know better.
Yeah.
One of the things that I try to impress upon you all is your duty, your affirmative duty to represent the university in such a light that people will know Jackson State. And part of that is knowing how government works, if that's your area. For some people on campus, it may be knowing how molecular structures work. That's not our area, but the opportunity that has been put before you is an awesome one, and it's a lifelong one. And you can't control curriculum.
Very
But
true.
I tell you all the time, you can control what you put in and what you put out. And truth be told, now Kennedy, you probably know a lot more civics than some of our elected congressmen and senators. But they need to go back. They need a refresher too.
Oh goodness, especially more than some of our city councilmen all across the country. But I think the other thing I'm going to challenge is that I would like to see you guys, and I don't know, Charles, if I missed this. I don't remember it being a push as we were coming through school, but be a part of the political process if that's your desire. Somebody has to be at the table.
Oh, it was. It was. I think you were more into book clubs.
Yeah. No, it was. That's true story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about taking advantage of those. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, because book clubs are so necessary. But there are others who have taken their love of politics all the way to Capitol Hill from Jackson State.
And I do want to, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I just want to bring this to light only because this is the research. I did a research paper about this in my other class for my minor in criminal justice. As much as, people want to be a part of the political process, I don't think they realize how hard it is to be a part of it sometimes, especially like my paper was just over the school to prison pipeline that I just submitted. And a lot of times with the education system, it's a lot of policies set in place to where it pushes out minority students and it'll give them a way harsher punishment than their white peers, or just it's different policy where they're expel them sometimes, give a suspension and stuff like that, and it'll push them towards the criminal justice system where then they're, idle minds, they're left to just do anything, and sometimes it gears towards illegal activity. So then after that, they're locked up, and then when you come out of jail, you're not able to always vote. It's hard to find a job. You're not able to vote. You're on probation for excessive amount of years for a minor offense. So, I think a lot of people don't know that, but that plays a part into, voter participation and civic duty and, everything that it all plays a part. So that's just one thing I think we also have to stress is every department and every system within this world in our country, it makes a difference.
Kennedy dropping dimes. Okay.
You see that, right? I love. But no, I mean, really though, this is a serious issue, and I think because you guys have social media, I think it's a new job position open, and it's that job position of the internal political source to keep everybody knowing when it's time to cast your vote, and I can remember, and I'm gonna take you, Charles, back, and Kennedy, your dad probably will know about this, but when we were in college, undergrad, we participated in the organization and the efforts of a sit-in because somebody was being selected for something, and we didn't particularly care for their decisions. It was not based on circumstantial information. It was based on facts. So we pulled the voting record, we pulled the action records of what that person had done in his last place and how that would be adverse to the student population of Jackson State. And when we did that, that was our way of being a part of the process. And I remember all the work that went in it, but it never felt like work because it was about, I remember seeing it all to come together and everybody playing a part. Everybody did their job. And we got a successful outcome. But you guys have the ability to do that through social media. And I was just thinking, if we'd had social media then, it would have been so much easier But you guys have it now, so you got to use it.
Exactly.
All right. You remember that, Charles?
Never forget it.
Yeah. Never forget that moment. Never forget the moment of that many students at one time coming together to be a voice because the faculty couldn't speak. They could easily fire the faculty. Can't
Yeah.
fire your students, though.
Yeah.
Students had the leverage, and we understood that. And the community rallied behind us and fed us and took care of us and supported the cause. Even so much so structurally in the way we organized it, we only talked to one reporter who was a Jackson State alum. And at that time, it was only one Jackson State alum that was in the local market of the station that was anchored. So we funneled everything there, and even the national feed had to pick up from him. Everything was strategic, but it was based, and it started because we had a source to go to that compiled that information. And it started as a grassroots movement, getting the flyers out, getting the information, talking to people on campus about, here's what he did at the last school. Do you want that to happen here? Here's what he did with dorms. Here's what they did with the admissions process. Here's what they did with financial aid. Come to the town hall. Here are the questions you need to ask. I mean, it was to that point. And when he came to the town hall meeting and they asked the questions, he got upset and lost his cool. Because we knew exactly what to ask. It was no fluff. We were going to the record, which only strengthened the movement. So action, Charles has reminded me that we can change things, but we have to do it together. We have to do it calculated, and we have to be strategic, and we have to be in one voice. Right?
Don't leave out being consistent, because consistency and persistence are how you get wide scale change.
Yep.
What kind of feedback are we getting from the audience?
See what we got. Sherry, let me see. Sherry said, what year? That was 91, I believe that was. And let's see. Okay, so some of the opinion that their vote does not matter. Charles, speak to that. You talked about that before. I know you've even dealt with that a lot, particularly because there are a lot of people that do have that sentiment that my vote doesn't matter. I think this last election should have done a lot to show people it does. If we just look at Georgia, if we look at Michigan, if we look at Wisconsin. But speak to that.
Well, I think in order to answer that question, I'm reminded of the PSA that was done by the strippers in Atlanta, because it was ridiculed. It was ridiculed by the traditional media and the traditional Black voters and the churchgoers who said, how dare strippers talk about voting.
Their vote matters just as ours,
And so the reason I bring that up is because it shouldn't matter what your station in life is. Your vote is your voice. And they took action to use their position in life as adult entertainers to get the word out that if you want change, for those people that are coming in the club who they knew they were going to watch that video, if you want change, if you want a new district attorney, if you want a new alderman or a city councilman or new police commissioners, your voice matters in the ballot box. And so they were able to get that point across there. So that's a micro of how it's done. The why is because if you sit on the sidelines and you get a president or a governor or a mayor that you don't like and you didn't participate, I can't hear you.
Very true. And it's sad. It's still some people in my generation that believe in that. But I feel like a lot more people are being more informed and just like, you can't sit up here and complain, but you're not a part of the solution or you're not trying to make a difference. And that's why I feel like a lot of more people are trying to start voting more and realizing that their voice matters, especially the last election with Donald Trump, because Of course, Hillary won the popular vote, but the electoral college matters. So I think that's why a lot of more people are still realizing my vote does matter. Go out and vote.
Yeah. One other example that comes to mind when losing is winning. Stacey Abrams had every type of obstacle you could think of put in front of her, and she still almost won.
Mm-hmm.
But in politics, there is no almost winning.
Exactly.
You win or you lose.
Right.
But what did that do for the next cycle? It showed people the art of the possible. And that's why I tell you, Leslie, all the time. Sometimes it takes time to build a coalition that you need. You're not going to snap your fingers and it happen. You got to get it to critical mass. When people saw her lose, guess what that did? It cemented in their brains, I don't like the feeling of this loss.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew the ramifications, even if they couldn't articulate them. They knew what that meant.
Exactly.
And so the very next time, Georgia is flipped.
And let me give you another point of view on why voting and why your vote counts. So let's say I run for office, I get elected. Number one, politicians look at the numbers. Understand that. They look at the numbers. So if I get elected and I notice that only 3% of the blacks turn out to vote, and I'm getting 60% of the other ones, the majority, I have no loyalty to do anything that supports Black initiative or agenda. I'm not worried about it. You only got 3% turn out to vote. You can't hurt me either way. However, if you turn out the numbers, now I'm looking at that. Oh, I've got to make sure I'm good over here too. I got to be balanced in my approach because I need them. And so when we don't show up to vote, we're doing more than just not voting for that person. We are degrading our value. We're degrading the value of the vote because the value is in the combined vote, and we're degrading that value. So when you have value, you have power, you have a voice, you have leverage. But if I know you're not voting in an area, I'm not catered to you. I don't really care. You can't sink me, and you can't help me. So that's just another point of view from the standpoint of politicians or anybody running for public office. You got to make yourself relevant. And the only way you make yourself relevant is by the numbers. Numbers don't lie. It's an exact science. I can tell you, numbers are exact science. You can have 99 cents. It's not $1 till you have 100.
Very well said. Very well said. One other thing I will point out to you too, in that is you're talking about the individual vote, and you're also talking about the collective vote. Believe it or not, the squeakiest wheel gets the oil. So if you leverage your vote to a policy action that you want to see, if you want to see accountability for officers, then make that your platform.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you want to see Jackson not have a song about potholes, make that your platform.
Make that your platform. Yeah.
Exactly.
Look, we just saw it in the last election, right? President Biden made getting shots out his platform.
And he's been doing so. It's a little hard.
He made that his platform, and before he got there, you only had a few places you can go to get your vaccination. Now, it's hard trying not to find somewhere to go to get your vaccination.
He created that expectation.
Right.
What I'm saying is, as individual voters, find somebody like you and get together and create your own platform and say, look, this is how many votes I have in my disposal. You can't have them unless we get some assurances that this is going to become a part of your platform.
I got you. So you're really creating your own pack, so to speak. Figuratively, at least. But that's true, because power is in what? It's in the combined voice. So that's what I meant. If you use leverage and you get all the millennial voices walking, a large group in that area walking in the same direction, you got a seat at the table. You will always have a seat at the table because you have votes. You can sway the outcome, and whenever you can sway the outcome, you always have a voice, and you have a loud voice.
That's right.
Yeah. So great stuff. Let me just pop some of these comments up here. So Charles, and let me go to Kennedy. So Kennedy, what else? We've tackled a lot of things today, but I want to make sure you came up with such a great topic for the show today. I want to make sure we hit everything that's important to you. What have we missed?
I don't think y'all really missed anything today. I feel like y'all hit every topic that I feel like matters the most. I honestly think we widened even discussion even more. So I think
there's one more because this has been a really busy week in terms of watching stuff that I didn't like on TV or that I didn't like to happen. So I can't end without going to South Carolina.
Oh yes.
I can't end without going to South Carolina. And I know you've seen the video, guys. There we have an Army sergeant who's at home. Young black gentleman is walking through the neighborhood.
His neighborhood as well.
Yeah, his neighborhood. And he's getting harassed. And the gentleman, the Army sergeant, is all up in his face, even using use of force, shoving him at one point. And I want to say right here, thank goodness, and I want to be clear on this, thank goodness to those Black women, those powerful sisters that took control of that situation and, in my opinion, saved another life. Salute to you. You didn't have to stop, but then again, you knew you had to stop. I salute you for that. They led by example. They showed us the way you make change. They changed and saved a life, and now, because that life is saved, action is able to be taken without a life being lost. And so I definitely want to salute them and then the challenges to us as brothers that we have to step up to. That incident, Charles, I don't know if you've had a chance to see the video on that, but again, those kind of things. I woke up the other day just saying, I think you referred to the meme. There was a meme going around that you can't be in your house sleeping. You can't be jogging through a neighborhood, and for goodness sake, don't go look at a house that's being built. You can't be babysitting your nephew and accidentally leave your front door open and somebody call for a welfare check because that'll kill you. You can't be eating ice cream in your apartment because then somebody might come into the wrong apartment and shoot you and say they were in their apartment. I can just go on and on. At the end of the day, what I realized, I said, I guess you can't be Black because that's the reality of Black in America right now. And so I understand where that frustration comes from, but I think what you've done today is challenged us to, and Charles will come back. We'll switch over until he gets back. What he's challenged us to do today is to bring into perspective the action we can take, right? What can we do? What are some of the things we can do to make it better, to improve the process? So I say that to say, and there he is, Kennedy, so if you can bring Charles back in for us. What are the things that we can do to make progress? Because we're all frustrated, but we can't, as Charles said, we can't let it get us to stop. We can't stop. We can't give up. So I salute the sisters, but I think as Charles leads us out today, I'm going to ask him to lay out some of response to the frustration of some of the things we can do, remind us of some of the things we can do, because I think that's important. We have to take action. There are some things we can do because giving up doesn't fix anything. Giving up doesn't change anything. And heck, if our ancestors had given up, we wouldn't even be able to vote. So Charles, I'm gonna send it over to you to get us out of this hold of apathy, and get us out of this hole of stagnation, or we kind of just jogging in place and get us moving in a direction?
I may not be the best person for that, but I'll take a gander. And you touched on a word that was percolating in my spirit when you said ancestors. Anybody who spends a great length of time with me knows that I am from the school of thought that my shero was, and that's Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman didn't want to be a slave anymore. She didn't want to be rooted in oppression. So on foot, she changed her circumstance. On foot now, with dogs chasing, angry men, angry mobs with guns trying to keep her as property. She said, I don't want to be a slave anymore. I refuse to operate within your system. And so by foot, not by helicopter, not by first class airplane, because guess what? There wasn't one. She went and changed her circumstance. But she didn't stop right there. Once she was free, she went and figured out the ins and outs of the system and who were allies and who were foes. And she devised a plan of cunning and just sheer will to bring other people who didn't want that same circumstance for their life or their children's life to freedom. And she didn't stop there. She went and participated in the Civil War. She spent the rest of her life working on bettering life for herself, her family, and her people. And guess what her biggest regret was?
What's that?
That she couldn't convince more of her people to break the bonds of slavery.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is there is a force of nature in each one of us that we have to tap into to say, I am going to change this circumstance, and then I'm going to link it to someone else's circumstance and help them better.
There it is. Man, it's been a great dialogue today, great conversation today. I want to remind all of you who have businesses, if you don't want to do it, you can reach out to us. We'll be happy to do it for you. But it's time to file your annual report, particularly if you're in the state of Mississippi, but any state, it's time to make sure you file those due every year. And depending on the state you're in, if you don't, they will revoke your status to no longer being active. And what that means, if anybody that does business with you, they go and pull a certificate of good standing, you won't have one. So that can be very, very detrimental to your business. So make sure you hit us up at Irvin Law, and we can definitely help you with that. 601-340-6800. Anytime. We'd love to chat with you. You can also go to our website and schedule a free consultation and get on Charles on my calendar, and we can go over all the details. So appreciate that. I am so elated that we have another person at the ones and twos. I think our intern is doing a wonderful job. So you guys make sure you guys give us some love and encouragement as it's her first day coming on the scene. But she has done the research to bring the topics that you see and keep us guided and really keeping us relevant of all the things that are going out there. So definitely show her love, Irvin Law family, and keep her in your prayers as she matriculate through DI Love. And you are classified what as? I didn't hear you.
Sophomore right now.
Sophomore, all right. And so let's make sure she wrap our arms around her, that she gets there in flying colors and continues to do great things. I know she will.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, well, you're running the show now. We just talent at this point. So you're doing all the controls back there. So I am gonna I think it's only fitting with the level of weight that this conversation has had today, that I send it over to Charles to kind of, if he was in a courtroom, he'd give his closing argument. But I'm going to send it over to him to give his closing argument, his plea, or whatever he's going to give you today as we head out. And then Kennedy will close us out with our show theme. But Charles, over to you, sir.
Yeah, I struggle with this from this standpoint. I don't want to get caught in the box of reacting to bad officers. And I want to remind everyone that your black is beautiful. It's powerful. It's excellent. You are just as capable as anyone else. And so don't ever let anyone treat you less than, because you are greater than. And because of that, you will succeed. We'll get through this. Morning will come. It's going to take time. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and tell you that I can snap my fingers and make these policy issues and the loss of life go away. But if we are consistent and persistent, we will prevail.
Well, there you have it. Kennedy, take us out.